Alright, here's my tutorial on how to pin models. Pinning models is actually really easy, and it adds a lot of strength to the bond of your model pieces. In particular, it's really useful with metal models where the glue doesn't bond to the model very well. In this tutorial, I'm actually going to use plastic models just because it's a lot faster to drill the holes and to pin them together. So what you're going to need is a pin vise. It's basically what it looks like. You can find it in any hobby store. It may or may not come with the drill bits. If it doesn't, you can buy drill bits. Buy a set of small ones. Here's one from Dremel. I think I only ever use these first two. A lot of times in hobby stores you can find the ones that are all sized for models. You're going to need wire. So this is pretty rigid copper wire. Again, you can find it in any hobby store, and comes in huge lengths. We'll cut it down as we go. And you'll definitely want a needle nose plier. This will be really helpful in holding the wire or model pieces as you're working. So what we have here's a dwarf body. You can see the neck piece that I'm going to attach the head to. And here's a dwarf head. I'm going to mount it sort of like that. Normally, I would say that it's easier to put the pin in this part and then pin it into the concave part, but this particular one, because there's such a small amount of material here, I'm going to set the pin inside of the head so that we don't have it kind of off center and sticking through or anything. So what we're going to do is just take our pin vise, put it into the material here, and you just apply light pressure and spin it in your fingers. Let's see if I can turn this so we can get in the camera. There we go. You can see a bit of plastics coming out. You don't need to go really far. Kind of pull that out and clean it up pretty often, and you can stick the drill bit in and get an idea of just how far you have. We kind of only went in about 1 millimeter there. You usually need at least 2 millimeters, and usually you don't need much more than that to get the wire to stick. So just to test, take this wire, you see the hole there, stick that in, make sure it goes in enough. Yeah, there you go. So that's plenty. Especially when the glue's in and you're going to surround the joint with a bit of epoxy. That'll be more than enough to hold it in place. So you're going to cut some of the wire. You can just kind of use a lot of needle nose pliers, have these cutters here, and you can just use that to cut it. I have a piece already cut. I'm going to use those needle nose pliers like I mentioned to hold the wire, and we'll just bring this in front of the camera. Kind of work that piece in there. There we go. Now that piece is way too freaking long, no matter how much I drill into the body. So we're gonna take that out and cut that down a little bit more. How about to there? You want to kind of sometimes put it against the table. You can't really see that well here, because when this cuts, if you're not holding both ends, one end's going to shoot through the air. So hopefully when I cut this, there we go. Yeah. So here's our little piece. Let's see if I made that too short. Yeah, I think that's okay. So if you look, there you go, you can kind of see Let me zoom in a little bit. See how that piece sticks out from underneath the head. So now what I like to do usually is kind of sit it on top of where I want it to go. I'm sorry, let me move that closer to the camera here. So I sit where I want it to go, especially with plastic. This works really well. You kind of push on it a little bit, and it creates a little mark. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but it creates a little mark on the other piece, and that's really helpful for trying to determine where you're going to put your pin vise. So we'll start drilling that out right there. Because there's so much substance in this one, you know, the body parts, you can really drill into it pretty far. I mean, it doesn't matter, because if you don't fill the hole, big deal, you know. So that's, how far is that? That's about that far into it. That's plenty. So test that fit. Oh. There we go. It's a rough one to put together because it's a scratch-built model, so these pieces are not meant to sit together. But there you go. It's in, and there's the piece. And once I glue it and kind of fill the area, and that's going to lend a lot of strength to that joint. And I'm not going to worry about being in a game and I grab him by the head and his head just pops off of the body. You can do the exact same technique with metal models. In particular, it's really useful when you have to do flat surfaces against each other, but ball joints work well too. And just takes a little more time to make sure to apply firm pressure, but don't rush it, especially with metal. These tiny little drill bits here really heat up, and in fact you'll feel it when you're doing it with metal and you spin it. When you take it out, if you touch the drill bit, it's hot. So you put too much pressure, you're just going to break the drill bit. And that's my tutorial.